Kate Osama.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. The Queen's speech has failed to meet the everyday challenges facing my constituents in Edmonton. My constituents want safe, affordable homes, well-paid jobs and funding for the public services they rely on. Though many across the House like to paint London as the hub for middle-class metropolitan elites, nothing could be further from the truth. The unemployment rate in Edmonton is almost 12% compared to the national average of 6.3%. 39% of my constituents are paid below the real living wage. In Edmonton Green and Lower Edmonton wards, almost half of the children grow up in relative poverty. Edmonton has one of the highest rates of unaffordable housing in the country. If the government truly wanted to level up, it must act now to reduce inequality across the entire country. The government claims to be the party of aspiration, so I'm looking forward to hearing about what the government is going to do to close the gap in racial wealth disparities in home ownership, especially in London. I therefore put to the Minister 3 priorities from my constituents. Firstly, what is the government going to do for my constituents living in Methven House, Prowse Court, Brickland Court, Geary Court and Gold Lion Court who remain trapped in unsafe buildings? If the recent fire at the New Providence Wharf showed us anything, we need a comprehensive building safety fund fully funded by the government and industry that applies to all high-rise buildings irrespective of height or tenure and which covers all fire safety defects and associated costs. Secondly, half of my constituents rent privately and there was nothing in this Queen's speech for them. They face a rent debt crisis with arrears that built up during the pandemic but with no offer from the government for rent relief. The government must act now and to provide rent relief, scrap no-fault evictions and give the Labour Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, the necessary powers to introduce rent controls in the capital. Finally, the Queen's speech said nothing about the huge shortfalls in funding that face local authorities. Since 2010, this government has cut Enfield Council's budget by an estimated 178 million and the council expects to see a further drop in income by 68 million as a result of the pandemic. The government needs to reverse those cuts and reinvest in public services. Madam Deputy Speaker, as I draw to close, we're emerging from the worst recession of 300 years and the worst public health crisis in a generation. The government should have seized this moment to deliver the safe and affordable housing my constituents need and not make it harder for them to vote. Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker.
Thank you. Gary Sam.